The Korvac Galactic Empire was huge. For 3,000 years they controlled 10,000 different star systems across the galaxy. Every planet, every moon, every space station, they owned it all. Their ships were massive, their weapons were deadly, and nobody had ever been brave enough to fight them. Until now. It all started when their deep space sensors picked up something strange. A small ugly metal object was floating through empty space, moving slowly between the stars. The Korvac scientists brought it aboard their flagship and looked at it carefully. What they found made them laugh. The thing was a probe from a tiny, blue planet called Earth. The metal was cheap and old. The electronics inside were so simple that Korvac children could build better toys. The whole thing looked like it was put together in someone's garage using spare parts. Admiral Tae-min was one of the Empire's best military leaders. He had conquered dozens of worlds and never lost a single battle. When he saw the Earth probe, he shook his head and smiled. These humans could barely build a simple spacecraft. Their planet didn't even have a proper space fleet. How could they possibly be a threat to the mighty Korvac Empire? He sent his report to the Emperor right away. The message was short and clear. Found some primitive aliens on a backwater planet. They can barely leave their own atmosphere. Not worth our time to worry about them. But the Emperor had different ideas. The Korvac Empire had a simple rule. Every planet in the galaxy must bow down to them or be destroyed. It didn't matter if the planet was strong or weak, advanced or primitive. Everyone must obey, so the Emperor gave his orders. Send one battleship to Earth. Give the humans a choice and become slaves or die. It should be easy work. Meanwhile, on Earth, things were very different. Captain Lee Ji-woo was sitting in her command center deep underground in Seoul, South Korea. The room was small and cramped, filled with old computers and communication equipment that barely worked. She had been put in charge of Earth's space defense program, which was honestly not much of a program at all. Earth's entire space fleet was made up of converted mining ships, old satellites, and a few research vessels. The governments of the world had only recently started working together on space defense, and they didn't have much money or time to build proper warships. Then the message came through. The alien transmission was picked up by radio telescopes around the world, and it was automatically translated by their computers. The voice was cold and mechanical, speaking in perfect English. People of Earth, this is the Korvac Galactic Empire. Your planet has been selected for integration into our domain. You have two choices: submit to imperial rule and become a servant, species or refuse, and face complete annihilation. You have 7 Earth days to decide. This message will not be repeated. The communication ended, leaving only silence in the command center. Ji-woo looked around at her team. There was Kim Dong-ho, a former Air Force pilot who now flew cargo ships in space. Park Min-jung was a brilliant engineer who had designed most of their makeshift weapons. Yoon Tae-hyun was a computer expert who kept their ancient systems running. With spare parts and hope, none of them looked scared. They looked angry. Well, Ji-woo said quietly, I guess we always knew this day might come. She had spent years preparing for the possibility of alien contact. Most scientists had hoped the aliens would be friendly, wanting to share knowledge and culture. But Ji-woo had read enough history books to know that when a powerful civilization meets a weaker one, things usually don't go well for the weaker side. She looked at the converted mining ships on her monitor screen. They weren't much, but they were all Earth had. The ships had been fitted with the best weapons humanity could build: plasma cutters from industrial equipment, railguns made from magnetic levitation technology, and missiles loaded with nuclear warheads. It wasn't enough to fight a galactic empire, but it was what they had. Ji-woo opened the communication channel and spoke clearly into the microphone. Her words would be broadcast to the alien ship and to every government on Earth. This is Captain Lee Ji-woo of the Earth Defense Force. We have received your ultimatum. Our answer is simple. We choose neither slavery nor destruction. If you want our planet, come and take it. But know this, we will fight you with everything we have. We will never surrender. We will never bow down. Earth stands free. She cut the transmission and sat back in her chair. Around the world, political leaders and military commanders heard her words. Some were terrified, some were angry, but most were proud. The declaration of war had been made. A small blue planet had just told the most powerful empire in the galaxy to go to hell. The Korvac Empire had made many mistakes in their long history, but this would be their biggest one. They thought they were fighting primitive humans with simple weapons. They had no idea what they were really up against. 3 weeks after Earth's defiant message, the Korvac war fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Admiral Tamin stood on the bridge of his flagship, a massive dreadnought that was bigger than most cities on Earth. He had brought 12 heavy cruisers and 40 destroyer-class ships with him. In his mind, this was already overkill for dealing with primitive humans. "Scan the system," he ordered his tactical officer. "Let's see what these insects have managed to cobble together." The results made him frown. The solar system looked nothing like what their intelligence reports had predicted. Instead of a few scattered satellites and space stations, the entire area around Earth was buzzing with activity. Thousands of objects moved in complex patterns between the planets. "Sir, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures throughout the system," reported the scanning officer. "Multiple installations on asteroids, modified structures around the gas giants, and something very strange near the sun." Tamin wasn't worried yet. Humans were known to be creative, but creativity couldn't overcome superior firepower and technology. He gave the order to advance toward Earth. That's when everything went wrong. The first attack came from what looked like a simple asteroid mining operation near Mars. The humans had hollowed out several large rocks and filled them with engines and guidance systems. But instead of mining equipment, these asteroids were loaded with kinetic accelerators, basically giant magnetic railguns that could launch chunks of metal at incredible speeds. The Korvac ships detected the incoming projectiles. Too late. Their energy shields, designed to stop plasma beams and laser weapons, were completely useless against solid chunks of iron moving at 10% the speed of light. The first salvo punched through 3 destroyers like they were made of paper. "Impossible," Tamin shouted. "How are they generating that much kinetic energy?" His answer came from the direction of the sun. What the Korvacs had dismissed as simple solar collection panels were actually massive focusing arrays. The humans had built mirror systems that could collect and redirect solar energy into concentrated beams. These weren't just big lasers. They were focused starlight, carrying the power of the sun itself. The beam that hit his flagship was so bright, it temporarily blinded the bridge crew. The ship's shields flared and died under the assault. Only the heavy armor plating kept them from being cut in half. Commander Yoon Hae-jin was watching all of this from the bridge of the ESV Determination, Earth's flagship. The ship had started, life as a cargo freighter, but human engineers had transformed it into something unprecedented. Where other species built dedicated warships, humans had taken a working vessel and made it fight. The cargo holds now contained missile tubes. The high-sea loading cranes had been converted into point defense weapons. Even the ship's waste recycling system had been turned into a weapon. Compressed garbage could be fired at near-light speed, turning trash into deadly projectiles. "Target their command ship," Hae-jin ordered. "Show them what Earth garbage can." To the Determination's waste cannon fired, launching a compressed cube of recycled plastic and metal at the Korvac flagship. The projectile hit the alien ship's engine section and tore through it like a bullet through tissue paper. The massive dreadnought began listing to one side, its main engines dead. All around the solar system, human ingenuity was on full display. Mining lasers, designed to cut through solid rock, sliced alien warships in half. Weather monitoring satellites fired their sensor arrays like missiles. Even the space elevators had been weaponized. The humans were literally throwing elevator cars at enemy ships. The Korvacs had never seen anything like it. Their military doctrine was based on thousands of years of traditional space combat. Ships lined up in formation, fired energy weapons at each other's shields, and the stronger force won. But humans didn't follow any rules. Human ships flew in, chaotic patterns that made no tactical sense. They used garbage as ammunition. They turned civilian infrastructure into weapons of war. It was like fighting an entire species of mad scientists. "Their targeting systems can't lock onto us," reported Kim Dong-ho from his fighter cockpit. He was flying a converted mining shuttle that had been fitted with military-grade thrusters. "They're programmed for predictable flight patterns." "But we're not predictable," That was the key insight. The Korvac Empire had conquered thousands of worlds, but every civilization they'd faced had fought the same way, with dedicated military ships using standard tactics. Humans were different. They improvised, they adapted. They turned anything and everything into a weapon. One Korvac captain, his ship crippled by a weaponized communications satellite, managed to send a desperate message to the flagship. These creatures fight like madmen. They have no concept of proper military engagement. They're using civilian equipment as weapons of war. The message was cut short when his ship was destroyed by what appeared to be a garbage collection vessel. Admiral Tae-min watched his fleet being torn apart by modified mining equipment and weaponized space junk. This wasn't how war was supposed to work. The humans should have lined up their ships, fired their weapons, and died honorably when their inferior technology failed them. Instead, they were winning. The retreat order came too late for most of his fleet. Only 3 ships made it back to hyperspace, carrying news that would shake the Korvac Empire to its core. The primitive humans of Earth had just defeated a superior military force using nothing but creativity and a complete disregard for the accepted rules of warfare. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one who doesn't know they're supposed to lose. Deep beneath the streets of Seoul, in what used to be a subway maintenance tunnel, Dr. Kim Min-ho was having the best day of his scientific career. The underground lab was cramped and hot, filled with salvaged alien technology and the excited chatter of his research team. They had been working non-stop for 3 weeks, taking apart every piece of Korvac equipment they could get their hands on. "This is incredible," Min-ho muttered, holding up a piece of alien circuitry. "Look at this design, it's thousands of years old." His assistant, Dr. Lee Hae-jin, peered over his shoulder at the component. "What do you mean?" "I mean they haven't changed their basic technology in millennia. This circuit board could have been built by humans 50 years ago. It's actually more primitive than our current smartphones." The revelation hit the team like a lightning bolt. The Korvac Empire, for all their power and conquest, had become lazy. They had conquered the galaxy using superior numbers and brute force, not advanced technology. Once they achieved dominance, they stopped innovating entirely. "Their energy shields are brilliant," explained team member Choi Jong-min, "but they're designed to stop one specific type of weapon, plasma-based energy attacks. They never adapted them for anything else because they never needed to. Every civilization they fought used the same basic weapons." Min-ho picked up his communicator and called the resistance leadership. "General Park, you need to hear this. The aliens aren't technologically superior. They're technologically stagnant. We can beat them." While the scientists worked underground, something even more remarkable was happening in a teenager's bedroom in Busan. Park So-young was 17 years old, a high school student who spent most of her free time programming and hacking into computer systems for fun. When the war started, she and her online friends decided to try something ambitious, breaking into alien computer networks. "Okay guys, I'm in," So-young typed to her hacker collective. They called themselves the Kimchi Cyber Warriors, and their ages ranged from 15 to 19. What they lacked in formal education, they made up for in creativity and determination. The Korvac communication system was protected by what the aliens thought was unbreakable encryption. To them, it was military-grade security that had kept their networks safe for thousands of years. To a group of human teenagers who had grown up with the internet, it looked like something from the Stone Age. Their security protocols are so old, they don't even recognize modern hacking techniques. So-young laughed during a video call with her team. "It's like they built a wall to keep out arrows, but we're attacking with missiles." Within 2 days, the teenagers had complete access to the Korvac fleet's internal communications. They could read every message, track every ship movement, and even access individual ship systems. But So-young had a better idea than just spying. She started uploading viruses. The malicious code she created was designed specifically for Korvac systems. It would hide in their computers, wait for the right moment, and then cause maximum chaos. Navigation systems would display false information. Weapon targeting would become unreliable. Even life support systems would start malfunctioning at critical moments. Their own computers are turning against them, So-young reported to Earth's military command. Every time they try to attack, their systems will sabotage them. But the real demonstration of human adaptability was happening on the surface, in farms and factories across the globe. The war had forced ordinary people to become creative in ways they never imagined. In rural Iowa, farmer Johnson Lee was having a problem. Korvac ground forces had landed near his cornfields, and the military hadn't arrived yet to deal with them. So he did what farmers do. He improvised a solution. His crop dusting plane was normally used to spray pesticides on his fields. But pesticides designed to kill insects could also be deadly to other forms of life. He loaded up his plane with the strongest chemicals he had and made several low passes over the alien landing site. The Korvac soldiers, who had no protection against Earth's agricultural chemicals, retreated in confusion and pain. "Turns out alien biology doesn't handle our bug spray very well," Lee reported to his local sheriff. In the industrial district of Busan, mechanic Choi Dae-ho was facing a similar problem. A Korvac patrol was moving through his neighborhood, and he needed to stop them. Looking around his garage, he saw the solution: construction equipment. Dae-ho spent 6 hours modifying a concrete mixer truck. He removed the mixing drum and replaced it with a missile launcher system built from spare rocket engines and guidance computers, salvaged from damaged satellites. The hydraulic systems used to lift concrete became weapon positioning mechanisms. "If they want to fight in our neighborhood," Dae-ho told his neighbors, "they'll have to deal with our construction equipment first." The improvised tank rolled out to meet the Korvac patrol and destroyed 3 alien vehicles before they knew what hit them. This pattern repeated across the globe. Fishermen converted their boats into torpedo launchers. Teachers used school chemistry, labs to create explosives. Even librarians got involved, using their research skills to find weaknesses in alien equipment and tactics. The Korvacs had expected to fight a primitive civilization with simple weapons and predictable tactics. Instead, they found themselves facing an entire planet where every person was an engineer, every tool was a potential weapon, and every problem was just another puzzle to solve. In coffee shops and garages, in schools and farms, humans were doing what they did best, taking whatever was available and making it work for their purposes. The aliens had technology, but humans had something more valuable: the ability to adapt, innovate, and never give up. Captain Lee Ji-woo, watching reports come in from around the world, smiled grimly. "They thought they were fighting our military," she said to her staff. "They don't realize they're fighting our entire species." The war was far from over, but one thing was becoming clear: the Korvac Empire had made a fundamental mistake. They had assumed that superior technology and numbers would guarantee victory, but they had never faced an enemy that could turn anything into a weapon and treated every challenge as just another problem to engineer their way out of. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were innovating their way to victory, one improvised weapon at a time. Captain Seo Min-jun had always been good at breaking things. As a child, he took apart every electronic device in his house just to see how they worked. As an adult, he became Earth's best communication specialist, which meant he was really good at breaking into other people's communication systems. When he managed to capture a Korvac communications relay station orbiting Jupiter, Min-jun saw the opportunity of a lifetime. The station wasn't just used for local fleet coordination, it was connected to the Empire's entire galactic network. Every planet, every star system, every enslaved world in the galaxy was linked through this system. "I can reach everyone," he told Commander Yoon Hae-jin over the radio. "Every single world the Korvacs control, they're all listening." "What are you going to tell them?" she asked. Min-jun smiled as he began setting up the broadcast equipment. "The truth." The transmission went out across 10,000 star systems simultaneously. On planets where alien species had been enslaved for centuries, the message interrupted regular Imperial communications. Factory workers stopped their machines to listen. Farmers looked up from their fields. Even Korvac soldiers heard the broadcast through their own equipment. "This is Captain Seo Min-jun of Earth, broadcasting to all enslaved worlds in the galaxy. We know you're listening. We know you've been told that resistance is impossible, that the Korvac Empire is too powerful to fight. We're here to tell you, that's a lie. The captain's voice was calm and confident as he continued. 3 months ago, the Korvax came to our world and demanded our surrender. We said no. They brought their great fleets to destroy us. We turned garbage into weapons and beat them back. They called us primitive, but we've captured their technology and found it's actually inferior to ours. Across the galaxy, millions of beings stopped what they were doing to listen. The message was being automatically translated into thousands of languages by the Korvax communication system itself. We're sending you the technical specifications for every weapon we've built, Minjun announced. How to turn mining equipment into artillery, how to convert civilian ships into fighters, how to use your enemy's own technology against them. But more importantly, we're sending you something else, proof that any species, no matter how small or seemingly powerless, can fight back and win. The data packages that followed the broadcast were revolutionary. Detailed blueprints for converting everyday items into weapons, tactical manuals for guerrilla warfare written in simple language that anyone could understand, chemical formulas for explosives made from common materials, instructions for hacking Korvax computer systems. But the most powerful part of the transmission wasn't technical, it was philosophical. Humans were sharing concepts that the galaxy had never encountered before. The idea that individual freedom was worth any sacrifice. The belief that ordinary people could resist tyranny through cleverness and determination. The revolutionary concept that no government had the right to rule without the consent of the governed. On the mining world of Vector Prime, a species called the Zilari had been enslaved for over 2,000 years. They were small, grey-skinned humanoids who had been forced to extract rare minerals for the Empire. When they heard Earth's broadcast, Elder Zilari named Keth Ara gathered the workers in secret. "Did you hear what these humans said?" she whispered. "They fought back, and they won." Young Zilari worker named Veltor looked around nervously. "But they'll execute us if we rebel, they always do." "They can't execute all of us," Keth Ara replied, holding up a datapad containing the human tactical manuals. "Look at this. Humans show us how to fight smart, not just hard. We outnumber the Korvax 1,000 to 1 on this world." Similar conversations were happening on worlds throughout the galaxy. The Thraxians of the Outer Rim began sabotaging Imperial supply convoys. The aquatic Nereids of the water worlds used their underwater cities as bases for guerrilla attacks. Even the peaceful Valdorians, who hadn't fought a war in 5 centuries, started manufacturing improvised weapons in their agricultural facilities. The key was the human approach to resistance. Previous rebellions had failed because enslaved species tried to fight the Empire using conventional military tactics. They built armies, declared independence, and were crushed by superior Korvax firepower. Humans taught them to fight differently. Don't build an army. Build 1,000 small resistance cells. Don't attack military targets, sabotage infrastructure and supply lines. Don't fight fair. Use every dirty trick, every improvised weapon, every advantage you can find. On the industrial world of Cormac Beta, factory worker Jex Rin used the human blueprints to convert assembly line equipment into missile launchers. The facility that had been producing Korvax military supplies was turned into a weapons factory for the resistance overnight. "The humans are right," he told his fellow workers. "Our machines are better than their weapons. We just never thought to use them for fighting before." The Korvax military found themselves facing a nightmare scenario. Rebellions were erupting on hundreds of worlds simultaneously. Their forces, spread thin across the galaxy to maintain control, couldn't respond to every uprising. Worse, the rebels were using human tactics that made them nearly impossible to defeat. When Korvax reinforcements arrived at a rebellious world, they found empty cities and abandoned factories. The rebels had melted away into the population, only to strike again when the Imperial forces left. Supply convoys were attacked by weapons that looked like farm equipment. Communication arrays were hacked by teenagers using techniques learned from Earth. Admiral Tamin, his fleet reduced to just a handful of ships, sent a desperate message back to the Korvax homeworld. "The situation is spiraling out of control. These humans have somehow turned our entire empire against us. Every world is in rebellion. Our technology means nothing when the enemy refuses to fight conventionally. How is this possible?" The answer was broadcasting across the galaxy in Captain Minjun's voice. This is Earth calling all free beings. Today we learned something important. It doesn't matter how big your enemy is or how advanced their weapons are. What matters is your willingness to fight for your freedom. What matters is your refusal to give up. What matters is your belief that no one has the right to enslave another being. On planet after planet, species that had accepted slavery for centuries were standing up and saying no more. They were using human weapons, human tactics, and human philosophy to fight back against their oppressors. The Korvac Empire, which had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years, was crumbling. Not because of superior military force, but because humans had taught the galaxy's enslaved peoples the most dangerous idea of all: that freedom was possible, and it was worth fighting for. The revolution had begun, and it was spreading faster than the Empire could contain it. The small blue planet called Earth had done something that no military conquest could achieve. It had given the galaxy hope. The end of the Korvac Empire didn't come with massive space battles or the destruction of their homeworld. It came with something much more powerful: their own people finally saying enough. On Korvac Prime, the capital world that had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years, ordinary citizens had been watching the rebellion spread across the stars. They saw the broadcasts from Earth, witnessed enslaved species breaking free, and watched their own military struggle to contain uprisings on hundreds of worlds simultaneously. But it was a simple message from a human child that finally broke their resolve. 12-year-old Kim Yoo-jin from Seoul had managed to hack into the Imperial Communication Network using techniques she learned from the Teenage Hacker Collective. Her message was broadcast directly to every screen on Korvac Prime during their evening news program. "Hi, my name is Yoo-jin and I'm from Earth," she said, sitting in front of her bedroom computer. "I know you probably think we're your enemies now, but we're not. We just want to be free. My mom and dad are fighting in space right now because your emperor said we had to be slaves or die. But we don't want to be your slaves, and we don't want to die either. We just want to live our lives and be happy." The little girl paused, looking directly into the camera. "I know there are good people on your world too. People who are tired of war and just want peace. Maybe if we all work together we can make something better than what we have now. My teacher says that's called democracy, where everyone gets to vote on what happens. Maybe we could try that?" The broadcast was cut off after 30 seconds, but it was too late. Millions of Korvac citizens had heard a human child asking for friendship instead of conquest. They had seen the fear in her eyes, the hope in her voice, and the simple desire for peace that every parent could understand. That night, protests began in the capital city. Korvac citizens, many of them parents themselves, took to the streets, demanding an end to the war. They carried signs with messages in their own language: "No more war, children deserve peace, and listen to Earth." The protests grew larger each day. Factory workers walked off their jobs. Transport systems shut down as operators refused to work. Even government employees began joining the crowds demanding change. Emperor Zektar, the absolute ruler of the galaxy's largest empire, watched from his palace as his own capital descended into chaos. His military advisors urged him to use force against the protesters, but something unprecedented happened. His own soldiers refused. General Vorthak, commander of the Imperial Guard, stood before the emperor with his helmet under his arm. "Sire, my troops will not fire on civilians. They have families too. They've seen what the humans can do and they've heard what the child said. The war is over." Admiral Taemin's final report arrived that same day. Of the 1,000 ships that had been sent to crush various rebellions, fewer than 50 remained operational. The rest had been destroyed, captured, or had their crews defect to join the resistance movements. "The Empire is finished," the Admiral reported. "Every world is in open rebellion. Our technology is being used against us. Our own people are refusing to fight. The humans have done something I thought was impossible. They've made the entire galaxy believe that freedom is achievable." As the palace walls were breached by peaceful protesters, Emperor Zektar sat alone in his throne room. The massive chamber, decorated with trophies from 1,000 conquered worlds, suddenly felt empty and meaningless. That's when Admiral Lee Jiwoo entered. She wasn't leading an army of conquerors. She wasn't carrying weapons or making demands. She walked into the throne room accompanied by a small group of diplomats from Earth and representatives from the newly freed worlds. "Your Majesty," Jiwoo said formally, "I'm here to witness the peaceful transition of power." The Emperor looked at her with tired eyes. He was old, having ruled for over 2 centuries, and the weight of his crumbling empire showed on his face. "You've won," he said simply. "My empire, everything my ancestors built, it's all gone. How did you do it? Your world is tiny, your technology primitive, your military insignificant. How did you destroy everything we built?" Jiwoo sat down across from him, not on the throne but in a simple chair. "We didn't destroy your empire, Your Majesty. We just showed people that they didn't have to accept it." She gestured to the documents her diplomats had prepared. "These are the Articles of Dissolution. They formally end the Korvac Empire and establish a framework for galactic democracy. Every world gets to choose its own government. Every species gets to determine its own future." The Emperor stared at the papers. "And what happens to me, to my people?" "You get to vote like everyone else," Jiwoo replied. "Your world becomes one voice among thousands, not the ruler of them all. Your people get to live their lives without the burden of controlling everyone else." Zektar picked up the ceremonial pen with shaking hands. "I still don't understand. You could have demanded our surrender, taken our wealth, enslaved our people. Instead, you're offering us equality." "That's what freedom means," Jiwoo explained. "It's not just for humans or just for the people we like. It's for everyone, including former enemies who are willing to change." The signing took only minutes, but it ended 3,000 years of galactic tyranny. In the months that followed, the galaxy transformed in ways no one had imagined. The Galactic Democratic Council was established, with representatives from every world. Earth became not the new ruler, but the teacher, sharing human concepts of individual rights, technological innovation, and democratic governance. Former Korvac military technology was shared freely among all worlds. Scientific research that had been hoarded by the Empire was made available to everyone. Trade routes that had once served only the capital world were open to all species. Children across the galaxy learned about the small blue planet that had changed everything. They heard the story of farmers who turned crop dusters into weapons, teenagers who hacked an empire's computers, and ordinary people who refused to accept that freedom was impossible. The lesson was simple but revolutionary. No government, no matter how powerful, could rule people who refused to be ruled. No empire, no matter how large, could survive when its own people chose freedom over control. And in classrooms on 10,000 worlds, young beings learned the most important lesson humanity had taught the galaxy: that the strongest weapon against tyranny isn't advanced technology or superior numbers, it's the simple, stubborn refusal to give up hope. The galaxy had entered a new age, and it all started with one small world that dared to say no to an empire.